Just before the episode gets underway, I want to take the chance to ask you to support Reimagining Cyber by following or subscribing to the podcast. Also, if you can, why not leave us a rating and a review? It really helps other cybersecurity-minded folk find us. So follow, subscribe, rate and review. Now on with the show. Welcome back to Reimagining Cyber, where we explore the critical intersection of cybersecurity and business impact, plus all the technology and ideas shaping the cyber landscape. I'm your host, Ben, and today we're tackling a story that's been splashed across the headlines, the so-called Gmail hack. But was Gmail really compromised, or is the truth a lot more complicated? Well, with me, as always, is threat intelligence expert Tyler Moffitt. Tyler, great to have you here.
Thanks, Ben. Always a pleasure.
Go on then, Tyler. Give us some more info. What's happened? What's been going on?
Right. So, Gmail itself was not hacked, but the hackers still created a very real threat environment. So it's worth unpacking not just the what, but the who behind it.
So the headlines themselves a little bit misleading, spreading a lot of fear.
Absolutely. And I guess so we'll go into just what actually happened, and here's the timeline. So the attackers, the group called ShinyHunters, they didn't attack Gmail's infrastructure. Instead, they targeted a Salesforce system connected to Google. Again, I'll repeat that. Gmail itself, servers were not hacked. It was a Salesforce instance, okay? So through social engineering and fraudulent calls, they tricked a Google employee into installing malware. That's it right there. So they gave them access to business contact data, names, phone numbers, emails. But importantly, and I want to cover this, no Gmail credentials, no inboxes, and no passwords were stolen. So Gmail wasn't breached, but the attackers suddenly had a goldmine of all this verified contact info to run targeted scams. And that's where it's awesome. So, I mean, for the criminals. Obviously not awesome for everyone else who uses Gmail. But if you want to give an analogy, it would be stealing an address book, not the house keys. They don't have direct entry, but they know everyone now who to impersonate.
Tell us then about ShinyHunters. Who are they?
So ShinyHunters, big players, well known, right? They've been in the scene at least since 2020. And they're a data broker crew, okay? So part cybercrime syndicate, part black market, okay? And they became famous selling huge stolen databases, Wikipedia, 90 million accounts, Wattpad, 270 million users, and even Microsoft GitHub repros, okay? They specialize in credential theft and insider manipulation, okay? This is similar to Scattered Spider. I think we talked about them on a previous podcast, but they are able to trick employees at companies to let them in, and then from there gather data, right? And so in underground markets, they're basically seen as a trusted seller, okay? If ShinyHunters comes to the table with something, people pretty much assume it's real and they've got it because the reputation, gives them power. And they monetize it, at scale. They sell to spammers, phishing crews, or even use it to leverage attacks themselves.
They've basically professionalized data theft, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, perfect way of putting it. They're a quality Amazon seller of the dark web. Reliable, consistent. They always look for big name targets. Obviously, Google, Gmail. They thrive on recognizable brands because that generates attention and headlines and ultimately trust in their ability and what they sell, right? So in this case, they didn't need to hack Google directly. They just went for a Salesforce instance, a softer target, and then weaponized the data against Gmail users. And that's basically their playbook, right? Indirect entry, big impact.
And I guess that's why, it explains why this whole incident blew up, because when ShinyHunters are involved, you know that the data won't just sit on a server, it's going to get weaponized.
Yeah, exactly, and fast, for sure.
So then, what did ShinyHunters actually do with the Salesforce data?
This attack happened basically at Labor Day weekend, and they've already launched phishing and vishing campaigns. So phishing emails, they impersonate Google or IT admins because they have real contacts and the emails look authentic, right? Spoof phone calls. So using the 650 area code, which is the Google's real headquarter number range, victims would get calls claiming to be Google support and, asking for verification codes, and the numbers look legit, right? It's a multi-channel attacks. an email followed by a call referencing the other. It builds urgency, but credible urgency. And I think that's the biggest part there. It's classic ShinyHunters, right? Take stolen data, add theater urgency, and suddenly the victims feel like Google is actually contacting them.
Let's talk then about the reporting. Very interesting. Some outlets said that 2.5 billion Gmail accounts were hacked.
Yeah, I know. I saw that going around as well, which is why I wanted to talk about it and sort of clear up some confusion, because I think even my mother-in-law sent me, did you see the Gmail got hacked? And so I had to be like, no, Gmail's infrastructure is secure. No passwords were stolen. This was third-party issue plus phishing. But of course, headlines create a panic, and the perception is powerful. Once people think Gmail is hacked, it's the sky's falling down. So it's a reminder to always check primary sources like Google's security blog, before panicking. But I don't expect pedestrians to do that. If that makes sense.
Fear spreads faster than facts, I suppose.
Basically, right?
So then, if Gmail wasn't breached, why is this incident still so important?
Because phishing doesn't need a full back-end confirmed breach, right? Why it matters is third-party risk. Compromising Salesforce had ripple effects into Google's ecosystem. Then the human factor, right? A single employee duped by social engineering opened the door. So, weaponizes trust. Google brand is so powerful, attackers only need a little data to impersonate it convincingly. So this highlights the bigger trend that attackers are pivoting from breaking systems to breaking people, and you also don't have to attack directly the company that's secure that you want to go after.
Okay, let's get practical. What can users actually do?
So there's a few key defenses. This is a big one we've talked about before. Two-factor authentication. I recommend passkeys or like the, looping security codes like Google Authenticator. I do like them. I'm not a huge fan of SMS codes being sent to you, but it is still like exponentially more secure than just not having any two-factor. So if all you can set up and manage yourself is SMS codes, still do it, even though that, these data brokers have no problem finding out who you are, and let's say go to AT&T or whoever your cellular service is, and they can impersonate attacks and do SIM swapping and get those SMS codes, but it's still way harder, but it's not infallible, right? But so the passkeys and the Google Authenticator, like cycling codes, are way more secure, and they're extremely phishing resistant, right? Because they're device bound. So beyond that, Google Security Checkup, this does a good job. Review devices, recovery options, and app permissions as soon as anything tries to grab into your account or logs in from any different location or different device. It sends an alert to every other device that is logged in that you're aware of, a notification going, was this you? If not, here's the steps you need to go to do it. I mean, I see it all the time because I'm always logging into different Google devices or handling my kids and their phones and whatever. And so I'm very familiar with it. It's good stuff. And enhanced safe browsing, real-time protection against malicious links. And then beyond that, vishing awareness. So Google is never going to ask you for your two-factor authenticator codes over the phone. If anybody ever does, just hang up and go reset your passwords. And that brings us to password hygiene, right? Long, unique passphrases. I like the term passphrase over passwords. In fact, I like even using spaces if you can, like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. That's a password right there with spaces. And it's so long that the ability to brute force it has just left the window, right? You can, with modern GPUs, like graphics cards, like a 4080, okay? I think we're on 5080 now, but a 4080, it's pretty powerful, very nice graphics card, can crack 15 characters in 15 hours. So go longer than 15 characters. And most of you out there listening do not have passwords that you use a lot that are past 15 characters. So I recommend coming up with a passphrase. And it can be, anything that you know of, whether it's a lyric in a play or song or whatever. I don't know. It's your own little thing. You come up with it. And then you can change it easily for each password too. So like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs Amazon for your Amazon password. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs Facebook for your Facebook password. That is going to be way easy to remember and way longer of passwords and way different than you just having your default generic 8-character password that you add the year onto and change up every now and then, or whatever people do right now. That's just a better way of thinking about it, if that makes sense.
I'm just noting down Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Tyler's go-to password, and I'm going to go crazy in all your social media.
It's my go-to example.
I can't believe you've given it away on the podcast. That's outrageous lack of security. Anyway, what bigger lesson should organizations be taking from this?
Yeah, the tools are there. People just need to use them. But the lessons that organizations should take from this, I would say that third-party risk, unavoidable. All right? Vendors can and will be the weak link, right? 2, social engineering trumps tech. Okay? Attackers don't need exploits when persuasion is in the works, right? Why brute force the lock when you can just trick the teller into handing you the keys to the bank vault? And thirdly, narrative matters. Even the perception of a breach can erode trust and cause chaos. I literally had my wife tell me that her mother had said Gmail was breached and that she needed to change her passwords and all this stuff, and what does it mean? And so I had to look into it and be like, they weren't hacked. But if we look ahead, AI is, I got to talk about AI, but it's going to supercharge this, okay? So ShinyHunters with AI-generated voices calling you, sounding exactly like a Google rep, that had an email from Google sent to you first, using an area code, using Google's area code. I mean, that's coming. It'll make spotting scams a lot harder.
Yeah, indeed. We've had a few episodes recently where we've touched on AI voices and, one of the real dangers of the future.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, it's why layered defenses and constant awareness are super critical.
Okay, let's recap then. Gmail wasn't hacked. ShinyHunters breached a Salesforce system and used the stolen data for phishing and vishing. That's right, isn't it?
Yep.
Cool. Their headlines exaggerated the risk, but the campaigns are real.
Yep. And, an easy reminder is protect your account, passkeys or two-factor, even if it's SMS. I don't recommend SMS, but that's all you got. Still use it. All right. Run the security checkup. Google offers it. You just Google security checkup. It'll help you. Don't trust unsolicited calls or emails, even if they look like they're from Google, because they may look like they are from Google,
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Tyler. And your Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs passwords is going to come in incredibly useful. Do also remember to subscribe and follow the Reimagining Cyber podcast. You subscribe to the podcast?
I believe so.
Of course. Let's say that with far more convincing. Please, Tyler. Right, let me ask that again. You subscribe to the podcast, don't you, Tyler?
I certainly do.
Of course, that's exactly the answer I need. Anyway, for more insights on the threats and trends shaping cybersecurity, remember, we are back here every single Wednesday. Thanks so much for listening. Goodbye.